What if I told you there was a secret way of investing that would all but guarantee really, really better than average gains year after year? And what if I told you I've even got the data that can prove it? Hey guys, welcome back. Many of us like to diversify in our portfolios in hopes that one or more of our stocks or ETFs are going to do really, really well for us. And hopefully those balance out the ones that we don't do so well on. But today I'm going to talk a little bit about a secret method that isn't so secret, yet so many of us don't follow it for some reason. Stick around. Now, just before I get into that, I wanted to revisit my video I did last week where I did a lot of talking about Nvidia. For some reason, I'm not sure if it was my upload or not, but it didn't appear that that video got out to many of my subscribers. So I hope you get the chance to go back and review that. I'll leave a link at the end of this video here. But what I've read over the last week about Nvidia is that it's been on such a run of late and it's done so well that it's almost time for a pullback. So if you've taken anything from that video, excuse me, and you've now gotten yourself into whether it's Nvidia stock or some of the ETFs that Nvidia is a part of, just be prepared. This might be a time where there's a little bit of a clawback on that and people start to take a bit of profit. Whether or not that happens, that's why we're in the game. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about different styles of investing. And what I was referring to in my intro was talking about index investing. And for many of us, we find those individual stocks of companies that we like or that we really use products from every day or services for that matter. And others then choose ETFs, which maybe is more sector based or more focused, if you will, on certain sectors of the market so that you're not holding one in particular, one stock. You're holding multiple stocks that are in a similar type of a sector. What I'm talking about today, though, is index investing, and that's where these ETFs actually follow an index. And the one I want to talk about today is the S&P 500. And specifically, I'm going to talk about two ETFs. One of the most popular out there with so many people is the Vanguard S&P 500 Index ETF. It's VFV.to. And that indexed ETF, I just had a look this morning, and I looked back in 2013, so basically 11 years ago, and I'm just looking at my chart while I'm saying this. That ETF traded for about $28.24, closed on Friday of this past week for $122.94. And I was talking last week about 4 or 5, 6 times the Nvidia price of what it has been closing at recently. And this is an example of an ETF that follows the S&P 500, and it has gone up, 4, 5, 6 times over that time of say 11 years. And if you look at the individual years annual return, this ETF has absolutely been incredible. Of course, that year of COVID, and there are some years, of course, where returns are not as good as previous years. But if you go back even 10 years, it's averaged somewhere in the neighborhood of 10, 12, 14% with highs of like 21 or more percent. And again, this tracks the S&P 500, the entire index itself. So it's not just an individual stock that this is following. And those tend to give you far greater returns. Another ETF that I want to talk about is the BMO S&P 500, and that one is ZSP.to. And this is basically Bank of Montreal's same type of ETF as the Vanguard one. It's just branded under the Bank of Montreal's offerings. And that one, again, if we go back and look 10, 11 years ago, was about $18.70. Looked like in May. And today, that ETF is now trading at $75.72. So again, not quite 5 times, good 4 times return. And again, the exact same concept. It simply tracks the S&P 500. And if we look at performance on those, or excuse me, on that one, again, COVID year, it was certainly hurt. But the average in there, again, looks to be about the exact same as the Vanguard one, somewhere in the 12, 14% range with highs up as high as 20%. So again, another example of not having to put all your eggs in one basket of a stock, not even putting all of your money into that basket of an ETF that's geared towards a specific sector within the stock exchange. This is more gearing towards an actual index. So this one here follows the S&P 500. There's also a number of different ETFs out there that follow the NASDAQ. There's so many different variations of different stocks that follow different indexes. But again, just another great way of investing. These also offer to varying degrees. For the most part, I believe they're quarterly dividends. Not all, mind you, but some offer quarterly dividends, not overly great dividends. But what you're looking for in these is the return via the capital. And as I said, this is if you're averaging 12 or 14% per year outside of crazy years like COVID, then that's something I think we would all take. And even at that point, I guess my dividend that I always love for my wife and I would not be as important to us if we're getting a return like that in this ETF. So you're probably wondering, if these index ETFs are so amazing, why doesn't everyone just invest in them and that's all they do? Well, that's an excellent question. That's $1 million question. I can't answer that. I had a very good conversation this past week with a coworker who has decided to move the majority of his money into index investing. He's got at least another 15 years before he's going to need that money. So perhaps for somebody who's closer to retirement, you don't necessarily want to do this because you never know what might happen, even though history shows us, other than one bad year, none of these ever really do poorly for extended periods of time. But those of us who are, or not those of us, because I'm not, but those of you that are much younger and still have a lot of time for your investing journey, over time, these have proven very successful. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed this. And as I always ask, if you've enjoyed this video or any of the videos on my site, please consider hitting that Mark C's button down below and to the right or left, I don't even know anymore. And consider subscribing. That way, every time I bring out a video, you will get hopefully notified and you can see videos when they come out. Thanks for sticking around and thanks for hanging out. Until next time, I wish you a great week ahead. Take care and we'll talk to you soon.